Had 5 practices so far. Guys are starting to make some progress, starting to see some progress. Just guys understanding what to do and how to do it. Techniques are starting to get better and allowing for some execution on a lot of different avenues. The older guys, because you're mixing with younger guys, communications are getting better. But just an overall knowledge of the scheme with DJ being there, in addition some of the different things we've done on defense, along with some of the things we've continued to do. Guys are starting to get a grasp of it. I think they've done a really nice job. I always think defense comes together quicker than offenses do, just the nature of the beast and how you do things. But offense have been pleased. Got some guys and new guys up front that are working hard, playing well. Some of the new receivers, some of the younger receivers, not new receivers, younger receivers and new receivers are doing well. Some of the new quarterbacks starting to grasp what's going on, why we do things, why we don't do things. A lot of interesting battles going across the board. I mean, we'll find out Saturday in some of the scrimmages what they can take to the field. But in the practice field, when you get coaches there, guys are doing a very good job. Got to be more consistent, but that's always the case when you're early in camp either way, and you're putting new things in. The other teams are putting it in. You're trying to learn what you do, then different formations, motions, and then all of a sudden here comes a blitz, or you do things like that. But I've been pleased with our guys. The knowledge of what we're trying to do and how we're doing. The coaches have done a good job. I think the energy level is pretty good, and the effort's been really good. Question?
I know you said that you were going to keep the defense the same, but what kind of new wrinkles has Coach Durkin brought to the table?
Well, I mean, just different, the way you do things, maybe how you cover a certain formation, or you cover a different route combination, or things of that nature, or different, you add a few blitzes here and there. But, I mean, typical things that anybody would tweak and turn, but still your foundation of things are very similar.
How hard are you pushing the quarterback room coach right now?
Oh, I mean, you're pushing everything. I mean, all battles. I mean, every day those guys are doing a really nice job, and we rotate them with different mixes and different groups. One day's different fields, so they're with different coaches and how they do things, and just seeing their leadership and their command. And that's the big thing. First of all, is the command, leadership, and the competitiveness in which they can exert, and the influence they have on the other players, as long as their own execution. I mean, we talk about their own execution, but you got to have that confidence. The players got to have that confidence, and all 3 guys have had experience and are very natural at it.
Connor holding his own?
Oh, yeah. I thought the young guys in general, I've been very pleased. I mean, the young freshmen, whether it's DBs, running, receivers, quarterbacks, ends, linebacker, whatever it may be. I think all those guys have really fit in, done a nice job. We definitely recruited right guys. I'm very pleased with their ability and what they look like and how they move and do things. And like I say, they're learning each and every day, but they're competing very, very well.
How is DJ's style? He may not be as demonstrative or loud as Coach Elko. Would that be accurate? But just in terms of his style and his
maybe not as loud, but I mean, he's still had great presence. I mean, and he can still get loud when he has to at times, which doesn't always mean some coaches coach quiet. I think he's whatever his personality is. When he gets going, and gets after him, and then all of a sudden he's quiet and teaching. And I think that's important to be as a coach, not whether you're loud or quiet. I think you got to be what your personality is, and I think that's where the genuineness comes. And I think he's doing a really good job with the guys, and I think the staff and he have meshed very well.
So even though 5 practices, seeing the coaching changes, do you feel you're further ahead than you were like last time?
No, I don't know about all that stuff. No, I mean, we still got a lot. You got a lot of guys to replace. It's 5 days in. You just saw the combine, or our own combine workouts. I mean, you lost a lot of guys. I mean, that's still a lot of things to replace and go. And we're not where we need to be, or nowhere where we were. But we'll get there.
I know, like you said, only 5 practices. There's only so much you can do. But how does that tight end competition look like it's coming around?
Tight end competition? A lot of bodies, a lot of guys. I'm going to tell you what, interesting guys are doing different. Some are blocking better, some are catching better. I mean, some guys are doing a good job of mixing both, and I think they're learning, and everybody knows how to do things. But having those different bodies has been very good, and it's been good competition, really has. Been a very interesting competition.
It's not necessarily your system, obviously, with Max Johnson, but how valuable is that experience? I know you weigh that or value that experience, that SEC experience that he's gotten over the past couple of years.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt. Being able to play in games, that's an advantage. I mean, there's no doubt. But, I mean, that's not a tell-all. But at the same time, he's done some things. And you can see, I think sometimes if he misses a play or something, the ability to come right back and make another play, I think some of that maturity. But of course, Haynes has always done that. Haynes was doing that in camp while he was starting for us, and then doing bowl practice last week, when he started to come back, he was starting to, you saw that. And I think Connor does it very naturally. I tell you what, he does some things now just, the instinctively, and how you do things, and throws and reads and eyes, and man, he's a very natural player too. So that room is going to be very interesting. But Max is doing a nice job too.
Is that fun for you to see that kind of competition?
Exactly what it's about. It's the only way you raise your game and raise your team, no matter what, at all positions. You have to fight for playing time. People say, well, how you gonna play them all? You play the best ones, and that's where the only way you're gonna find out what's the best of a guy is he gets pushed every day, and knowing if he slips up, there's gonna be somebody take his job. That's what you strive for as a coach, that you create that competition within. Now you find if guys all deserve to play, you find ways to play them all in different avenues, but that competition has to be there daily, and that pressure of having to execute and compete every day has to be there in practice for you to ever grow as a team.
What are you seeing in the back end from the defensive back coach?
I've been very pleased. Guys are playing well. I'm sorry.
A lot of veteran leadership back.
There's veteran leadership, and the young guys have done well. I mean, he had a lot of young guys play last year, and I think guys playing different roles, playing different positions. It's been very pleasing, and I think for the most part, the different, what we've added new compared to what we still kept on from last year. I think guys have done a good job comprehending what we're trying to do and how to do it, and a lot of ability. A lot of guys that can run and close gaps, and I think we've increased ourselves speed-wise, and I think we have in the offseason. I think our offseason we've gotten faster too.
How much are you moving Antonio around? Have you experimented with that a lot?
Antonio played the first couple days, and he got nicked up a day. He's carrying a little knick-knack, so he's been out for a day or two. Nothing that will hold him anymore, but he was playing multiple positions when he did it.
A-Chain is obviously a dynamic player. What is your philosophy when you have one of those guys going into a season in terms of any kind of hype or publicity and saying, hey, here's a possible candidate for awards?
Anymore, those days to me are over. You used to have to hype guys before the season. Now all you got to do is watch the season. The hype comes from because media back then, you had to present a guy. Guys in the other parts of the country never saw him. You had to hype guys. Now, everybody knows everybody. What he needs to do is just go play well. You go play well, you get hyped from the get-go. Expectations, there's no reason to put any other pressure, but expectations for him to be one of our best players and our most productive players is definitely out there and has the ability to do that. And I think that the old, I guess what you're saying, I'm going to use for an example, I'm not saying this like the Heisman hypes. You had guys in preseason that were this, then the mid-season, But if you think about it, I remember the day you forget about probably Anthony Davis lost a Heisman trophy. You've already tell this story. Because the last game of the year, he got second in the Heisman. All right, the last game of the year they played Notre Dame, USC did, and they were both top 3 in the country. They were down at halftime, and 24-6, and they ended up winning 55-24. He scored 6 touchdowns, and that never got counted in his votes because the votes had to be in a week before, and they had to be sent before that game ever existed. He probably wins the Heisman Trophy. So what I'm saying is the hype of knowledge of knowing guys, instantly what a guy does, let alone a week later. So I think hype and all that stuff, I don't think that's needed. When Jameis Winston won the Heisman for us, there wasn't no hype. No one even knew him. When the freshman Johnny Manziel won the Heisman, there was not any hype because no one even knew him. When Bryce Young, he had a little hype because he was playing there, but their success, but he wasn't. You know what I mean? He wins the. I think that day, if you just go play well, people are going to see immediately.
So is that then one of the positives, maybe one of the few positives of instantaneous media now and social media, where that people do see that?
Oh yeah, there's nothing to hide. Everybody knows everything right now. So whatever you do, good or bad, well, it is good. It's tough on bad. And for kids and day, that's part of the world we live in.
Well, since we're discussing Devon, I know he's not doing much in the spring, but
well, he practiced a couple of days. He's in track right now. He got a big meet this weekend, but he practiced 2 or 3 days the first week.
In your opinion, does he have the durability to be able to carry the ball 20 times a game?
Yeah, why wouldn't he?
Because he's not the biggest guy. Tough call.
Chris Thompson carried it for us every time. Dalvin Cook and Devontae Freeman weren't big guys. They were 195 pounds, 198 pounds. Devontae was, ended up being about 202. Dalvin's about 206 at the end, but when they first came, they all did that. I think that's by an individual. Tony Dorsett did back in the day when he got beat to death and was 185. 185 and less. Warwick Dunn did it. I think that decides by the individual. I think each individual does that, and Devon seems to be a guy that can do that. And we'll find out.
How much big playability do you see in the receiving corps?
We're getting there. I think we're getting there. Some of the guys were running better. Some of the young guys are creating plays. We've made some downfield plays, and what we're doing. So, but also catch and run. Everybody says big plays down the field, and I asked that, just like we had that discussion on TV today. Everybody says you're a big play down the field receiver. Well, today, that doesn't mean like it used to be, you throw him posts and goes. You can get them, you got to get them. Like Tyreek Hill, for instance, they're having that debate because of Tyreek Hill, the big playability. Well, as many of his big plays came on catch and run, on 8, 10-yard throws, as they did on, now he hit his over the top ones, You know what I'm saying? But I think that big playability from your receivers anymore, I think that's a catchphrase when you're talking about down the field. But we got to develop that down the field, and I think we've done a better job of that, and I think we have. But I think part of that, too, is defenses now, if you think there's a lot of single high coverages. What does that mean? People say, well, what's that mean? Well, there ain't no it's hard to throw a post route. You got to create ways to find post routes because people will play that now and play all the underneath stuff, and you got to hit cross. Then you hit your goes outside. You hit your that's why people are hitting those mid-level deep balls, those overs, and running like you see them do. So I mean, but I think our guys are doing a really good job of that, and I think doing a good job of catch and run underneath too.
Jimbo, I'm curious about your linebacker situation. First of all, are you seeing the, seeing improvement from?
There's been some improvement and some things that we got to get a lot better at. In both. I mean, I think that's across the board. I think we got to see it in the offense, in the defensive line. I think we got to see it in linebackers. Some of our secondary guys, offensive line, because you're still mixing, matching. Receivers, consistency with that. Running backs, not only change, but the other guys getting the depth, the young tight ends. I mean, I think that goes across the board. But linebackers have had some nice things in plays, and I think we got to play with more consistency too.
Is this nice for you? Everything, new contract, LSU stuff out of the way, everything's settled in. Is this what's most fun for you now, settling in and knowing everything?
I was settled in before. You just didn't believe me.
Okay. So
I told y'all that. No, but yet no, bull baloney. Don't. Yeah. All right. You hear what he said? What? Don't sit there and get yourself caught. Don't sit there and get yourself caught in a lie. Don't. You won't be. Blah, blah, blah.
I'll be asking those questions moving forward.
All right.
Having to answer those questions.
Well, yeah. I mean, wait. Yeah. No, hopefully you're not. But you don't. How do you know you don't have 2 great years? Somebody says, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, that you can't. But just what you say and what you do is, I mean, honestly, I love being here. Like I said before, we got a lot of work to do and to achieve what we need to achieve. But we can do it, and it's a great place to be.
You mentioned Antonio. Anybody else possibly that you reserve?
No, I mean, and I say injuries. It's just, you know, you tweak something, you're off a day, you're back a day. You know what I'm saying? It's nothing. I mean, that's going to go off and on. That goes daily. I hate to say that, but I mean, or you guy practices half the practice and you cut him back just to let something heal up so you don't tear it. But I mean, I think that's a daily procedure.
Scrimmage-wise, any expectations heading into a coach?
No, yeah. Hopefully we can execute. I mean, I joke about that, but I mean, in the first scrimmage, that's what you want to see: competitiveness. You want to see guys who don't have the selfish pre-snap penalties to get lined up the right way, can get a signal from the sideline and get in and get the right call, the right check, whether it's offense or defense. You know what I mean? Just the functionality of the basics. That's what you're trying to get into. And like I say, right now, we ain't trying to, in my opinion, I want to find out who's going to compete, who can play, do the fundamentals well, and you're not getting into a lot of trickery. You're finding a lot of, that's play and be able to execute. And when, as I say, you don't have your cheat sheet with you, which is your coach. You know what I'm saying? You got to be on the field your own self and make your own calls and communicate. That's going to be the process. That's the big thing you want to see there. And the lack of self-inflicted wounds, whether it be, you know, turnovers on offense, but you want to create them on defense. So one side you're happy, one side you're not. If you don't say offense, don't turn it over all day. When on defense, you're mad because you didn't get any. You know what I'm saying? Me as a head coach, put it this way: after a scrimmage, I'm never happy. I'm halfway happy here and halfway happy here. People don't understand that. Even though you still call the plays, you still know what you got to have to win. So, I mean, I think that's the big thing in the scrimmage. I mean, I really mean that. Just being able to function without that, and then like no pre-snap penalties, don't jump off sides on defense, don't jump off sides on offense, no stupid penalties either way. You know, I mean, occasionally there may be something from effort, but you got to play technique and then great effort and I want to see great competitiveness and great physicality. Right. You can't play in this league. If you go watch it, no matter how skilled all this stuff is, if you don't have great physicality and play with that way in competitiveness, it's hard to have great success.